Welcome to the On a Mission Mojo podcast, where I have the pleasure of interviewing impact-driven founders, entrepreneurs, authors, and business experts who are actively working to create a positive difference in our world. I'm your host, Lori Young, a branding specialist, certified master marketer, and a passionate advocate for brands that possess heart, soul, and an unwavering commitment to drive change for humanity. It takes grit, a visionary mindset, and an abundance of mojo to navigate this journey. And the stories I share will undoubtedly ignite your passion. If you're seeking an infusion of inspiration, motivation, and valuable insights to amplify your impact, let's dive right in. Welcome to episode 41 of the On a Mission Mojo podcast. We have a special guest with us today, and we are going to be talking about something that I think affects all of us, and that is our phones, our devices. And our guest today, Kathy Van Benthuizen. Yay, I got the last name right. Really talks about how to scroll less in our lives and connect more. And I think that this is such an important mission, and it affects everyone. So let me just introduce her. Kathy is a 20-year mom. She is a 30-year teacher. So she has been in the trenches and she knows what's going on in our schools. And she's an author, a coach, and the co-founder and president of Converlation, another name that we're going to dive into and understand what exactly Converlation is. So welcome, Kathy, to the show. I'm happy to have you here. And I think this is going to be a very important topic that we all need to hear and we all need to learn from and actually practice. I wish I would have known an expert like you 20 years ago when I was raising my children, because like now I met Kathy through LinkedIn, just stumbled upon her content and it just really resonated with me. And that's kind of what happens with podcast guests. I find someone and their content just really speaks to me. And even though my kids are grown, I still think it's relevant for even adults. So why don't you take just a few minutes, Kathy, and share with listeners just your mission in this world and like how you got started in this? Like, why did you decide to go from being a teacher to now being the co-founder and president of Converlation?
Thank you. First of all, Lori, thank you for having me. I am super excited to be talking with you. So my story is with Converlation. We really want to help parents. We want to equip parents and empower kids so that they can be mentally strong and thrive in this digital age. Because we know that all the stuff that's coming at us with social media, and gaming and all the videos really impacts how we think and feel about ourselves, and especially with kids. And I know as a parent that I didn't grow up with all this stuff, and I'm sure you didn't either.
No.
So when we look at like how do we handle all of this when we have no reference to anything prior to this? Like we didn't have it. So and we want to really help parents and kids to navigate the challenges that they're facing today as a result of social media and the unrealistic expectations and standards and peer pressure. And so I'll tell you a story like how it came about. So I was teaching, and my husband actually met my now business partner, and he was saying, oh, he's telling him what he's doing with technology. And my husband's like, oh my gosh, my wife would love this. You should talk to her.
Okay.
And John said, oh, we'll have her stop by one day. And as he says, I stopped by and I haven't left. But
Okay.
I was so passionate about like oh man, like we can actually help parents and kids to deal with this. And so one of the reasons, so I was teaching at the time, and I
Mhm.
thought, you know what, I'm so passionate about this. So I would come after work, after teaching all day, and I would come
Mhm.
in and work on some stuff. And at this time we were not Converlation, and I'll tell you a story in a bit how we got there. But I said, you know what, when I can't be a great wife, a great mother, a great teacher, a great sister, all of that, then I know it's time to retire and move to
Okay.
Converlation.
Okay.
And I came to the conclusion one day I'd come home and um, from this was during COVID when
Mm.
we were only teaching half days. And I
Okay.
came home and I would come home and eat my lunch real quick and then come to the office. And
Okay.
my son was like, oh my gosh, mom. And he wanted to tell me something because he was home doing his virtual learning.
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh, he misses me. Like, I'm spending so much time away. I think it's time for me to retire. So I did. And one of the things that really, like, I had been seeing all along that
Mhm.
really impacted me and made me say, this is what I want to do. This is the direction that I want to go was we would, every single morning of my career, I would
Mhm.
greet the kids at the door and I would say, good morning, Lori. How are you doing today?
Mhm.
And every single kid on the first day of school and my first year teaching were able to look me in the eye and respond. Fast forward to my last year teaching, which was 2021, one student, one
Wow.
student on the first day of school could look me in the eye and respond.
Mhm.
And it's almost like we've normalized having our heads down, looking at devices. And I was like, wait a second. I know that's not normal.
Right.
20, 30 years ago, kids could look you in the eye, they could have a conversation, they could engage. And now all of a sudden, they're not able to do it. And I started noticing it as towards the end of my career that less and less kids were able to, like, on the first day of school, look me in the eye and respond. And then
Mhm.
it was December and I'm still reminding kids, you need to look me in the eye, you need to respond. So I knew that I wanted to do something else because I noticed with kids that they weren't mentally strong.
Mm.
That,
Mhm.
the slightest thing that came up against them, the slightest problem, they would be falling apart. And this is
Right.
something that I'm hearing from my friends who are educators are all saying the same thing. Wow,
Right.
these kids, they're not resilient. They're falling apart. And I'm thinking, I wonder why this is happening. And I think it's that they're inundated with all of these unrealistic expectations that they're
Mhm.
seeing on social media and through advertising. So
Yeah, it's interesting. And this is a horrific story, and I don't know all of the details. I just know that my spouse shared with me the other day that a teenager committed suicide. I was under the pressures of social media, and I don't even know if it was a he or a she, but they died with their phone in their hand.
it's
Now, I hear that story and I think, oh my God, like, oh my God, what is happening to our youth and to this world? It's really sad. And I'm so grateful for what you're doing. And I know you're one person or two people, right? But I think the more that you and your partner can start these conversations and get into the schools, and that's the only way that we're going to bring about change.
we
So,
well, so I have to tell you this story. So being in schools, so we were invited to, like, speak on this panel about
mhm,
mental health.
mhm,
And what it was about, like, how our kids' brains are being rewired. And so it was a small school. There's only about 150 kids in the school, and 80 parents showed up. 80.
wow,
And that just, like, it just shows you how parents are so concerned about this. Like,
mhm,
mental health is a huge concern of parents. There was one dad like towards the end, he stood up and he said, all right, I have an idea. Do you think it would be okay? Just, they're not allowed to have phones. They're not allowed to have social media. They're not allowed to have it. And we kind of chuckled and we're like, yeah, but that's not really the answer. Like, just saying we're going to take it away. They
Right.
still need to learn to live alongside it, to navigate through it.
Hmm.
And like, that's where we come in, is like, we help to educate and show them that, because it's, tech isn't bad. It's not bad. It's how we use it that
Mm-hmm.
impacts us.
So tell us a little bit about Converlation, and what does Converlation actually do?
So we have we provide resources in
Hmm.
schools and also to families to help parents and schools to support the kids. So
Okay.
right now we are doing free parent webinars just to educate them about this.
Hmm.
And with that, there are programs where we have a community where parents can get together and learn about how to basically support and help their kids and to foster
Hmm.
those healthy family dynamics. We encourage the positive, like starting each day on a positive note and ending the day the same, well, to help build kids' self-esteem and confidence. And then we help parents when they're trying to navigate, helping their kids with social comparison and peer pressure and really the effects of social media. And
Hmm.
in schools, we know that schools are seeing the ramifications of students' tech use outside of school. So, like,
Hmm.
the social media, the gaming, the videos. And schools, their desire is that the kids do well. But from being in education, I know, like, the test scores are a reflection. How kids doing academically is a reflection of the school. And when the schools were saying, wow, all of this stuff that kids are doing outside of school is impacting them in school, it's impacting their focus, their attention, their academics, are their test scores are going lower. There's
Hmm.
bullying that we're seeing. So
Hmm.
schools are saying, we see this, and they're using our program to help them to mitigate the effects that they're seeing.
Okay.
And I just want to tell you, so the name Converlation, how it
Hmm.
came about
Okay.
was, um we were like a couple different names that like just didn't really, stick.
Resonate. Hmm.
Yeah. And one day we had been talking with focus groups and parents and teachers who had gone through Converlation with kids and with their, parents with their own kids. And they never actually talked about the actual experiences in the guide. People might call them an activity, but we just call them experiences.
Hmm.
And they didn't actually talk about, oh, well, this one was great or this one. They talked about how they had better conversations. And as a
Hmm.
result, the relationships were strengthened. And so one day we were playing with words and we're like, hey, conversation, relationships. Hey, if you change the S in conversation to an L, you get converlation. And we know it's
Yes.
like it's made up word, but we're like, hey, people keep using it. It can go in the dictionary.
Absolutely.
And it's it's having conversations, strengthening relationships.
Okay. Good. I like that. So I want to talk about because I feel like as a parent, my boys are already grown, and I want to talk about like the impacts of social media on kids today. Like what's actually going on
Hmm.
that maybe some things parents do see, but there's other things that parents aren't seeing that they need to be aware of.
So with social media, um so I hear parents say to me sometimes, well, we grew up with TV, look how we
Mhm.
turned out, we're okay. But the
Mhm.
thing is with social media is that there are attention engineers that tech companies hire who are on the other
Okay.
side of the screen, who are tracking and manipulating your experience
Mm.
so that you stay on it longer. And we all
Right.
get it. We get, oh, I picked up my phone and I just was scrolling. And the next thing I know, an hour later, I'm still scrolling. And how did they know that like I like cat videos? Well, yeah,
Exactly.
the algorithm is reading it and
Hmm.
saying, oh, Kathy likes cat videos. I don't. Sorry, everyone. Like, they're not my favorite. but,
I like dog videos.
okay, so we'll make dog videos. And the next thing you know, the algorithm's reading it and it's saying,
Hmm.
"Lori likes dog videos," and it's just sending you dog video after dog video. And
Hmm.
kids aren't, like, thinking it consciously, even us
Right.
as adults. We don't, we
Right.
just and the next thing we know, there was a quote somewhere, a great way, to, like, waste 35 minutes is to, start 5 minutes of scrolling, and then you're lost in
Right.
it, and
Hmm.
your time is gone. And
Yes.
so it's what's happening behind the scenes. That's the part that I don't think that parents realize, that
Hmm.
it is meant to addict us. I mean,
Mm.
it's like a drug.
Right.
It's meant to be addictive so that
Hmm.
we stay on it longer, and the longer we stay on it, the more money that we make. So essentially our eyeballs are making them money. And then when
Right.
you think about all of that, how does that impact us mentally when we're
Right.
constantly being fed? Or like, let's just say, let's take it away from, like, dog videos or cat videos. What if we're scrolling through, like, oh, I want to see, the newest bathing suit, and then I'm looking at all these people that have beautiful bodies, and mine
Hmm.
doesn't look like that, and then I'm starting to feel bad about myself. Or I see a friend's vacation photos, and then
Hmm.
I'm thinking, oh, well, how come my life isn't like that?
Right.
And that really impacts our mental health. And then
Hmm.
I had put, so this was interesting, yesterday on LinkedIn, someone had commented that our bodies are meant to be in homeostasis. So we're not supposed to be like super high or super low. And I'm not going to get like into the nitty gritties of it, because it was like actually fascinating what he was
Hmm.
talking about. But he said that when we're had that dopamine hit, like,
Hmm.
oh, this feels good, I'm going to go on something, and I'm going to
Right.
constantly be looking at it. That raises up our levels, and so our body wants to bring it back down again. And he said, I wonder if it's because we're so here all the time with the dopamine hits, our body goes into a depressive state in order to
Mm.
try to normalize.
Got
And
it.
we were talking about, like, are we seeing more anxiety and depression as a result of us constantly having those dopamine hits? And I'm
Hmm.
thinking, yeah, I
Yeah.
I would.
So like the kind of like a physiological
Mhm.
response of the body, and just our brain can't like normalize.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's just kind of up and down, up and down, up and down, and we cannot
Yes.
find that.
And I don't think that we are meant as humans to be constantly stimulated all day long.
Yes.
Like, our brain,
Yes.
we're not made like that. I mean, think about, when, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I'll, every once in a while, I'll go out of the house and I don't have my phone. And I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of nice. No one could get a hold of me. You know what? I'm going to
Yes.
keep going. I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to go do whatever errand I needed to do.
Right.
And I like, it actually feels almost rebellious. Like, oh, I did something without my phone. And that we shouldn't be like that. Like, that should be that I can go take a walk in my neighborhood without my phone and not feel
Hmm.
like, oh, I'm missing something, like something doesn't feel right. And
Right.
that's, like, I think that's what the behind the scenes that's happening is. Like, it's almost like someone said to me yesterday, it's a drug. And I was like, absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. It's a drug.
Yes, it is absolutely. And so I want to hear a little bit more about like what our kids are facing on social media. We know that they are addicted to their
Mhm.
phones. We know that their heads are constantly
Mhm.
down and in their phones. What are they seeing? What is going on besides the, oh, this is a cute a cute video or whatever. What else is going on that is really like playing a big factor in their mental health?
So when kids are constantly, so we're going back to like the dopamine, when they're constantly being, oh, so when you think about when, um, say that you or I, we post something and then
Hmm.
we are like, oh, well, I hope someone liked it. I hope someone
Mm.
hearted it. I hope someone
Hmm.
left a comment.
Right.
And those things make you feel good. Like we can't pretend that it doesn't make you feel good. But when kids, they're not really, talking about social issues on their feeds. They're talking about the party that they went to. They're talking about the new clothes that they got. They're talking about the vacation that they went on. So they're getting their validation. Who I am as a person, what makes me worthy, is now not in who you are. It's based on what other people are saying about you. And
Hmm.
well, or was so if someone doesn't like the vacation photo that I went to, or if someone doesn't like, the the friends that I were hanging out with, then that means that, oh, that I must not be good enough. I must
Right.
not be okay. And then think about that, like, how does that impact us as adults? If we know that we would say, oh man, that would like kind of stink. Well, how much harder is it for a child whose prefrontal cortex isn't even completely developed? How do they respond to it? Well, then there must be something wrong with me. I
Right.
must not be good enough, worthy. I say this all the time, that kids are growing up in a popular culture and a media culture that reminds
Hmm.
them often they're not good looking enough, thin enough, rich enough, popular enough, frankly, just not enough.
Enough.
And
Yeah.
imagine if you hear that every day, not necessarily words coming out, but this is what you're seeing every
Hmm.
time you pick up your phone. And then
Yep.
it has it and obviously we're seeing the trends of anxiety and depression is on like such a rise.
Hmm. And
And
suicide.
yes, and suicide,
Hmm.
that we can't just say, oh well, we're not really sure how it happened, because actually from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s, this line of anxiety and depression was pretty like, yes, there was it, but
Yes.
it didn't really, fluctuate too much. And then in
Hmm.
2011, think about what started coming out. It was
Hmm.
social media. And
Right.
now all of a sudden you see this rise, and it's pretty like steady going upwards, especially
Hmm.
with kids. And that's the thing. It's if our kids at these formative years, when
Hmm.
they're 10, 12, 14, when they want to know, it's like, we always say like middle school is like hard enough as it is.
Yeah,
And then we
definitely.
add in this social media element to it, and having phones and devices, that they're like, how does a kid navigate that? I mean, I think
Right.
like middle school, when I went through in high school, it was hard enough trying to make
Yes.
sure that, you're
Hmm.
doing the right thing or not doing the wrong thing, that,
Right.
so people like you. And now we add in this device that, you know what? I can I maybe I don't know, I ate broccoli at lunch and there's something in my tooth, and people are like passing it around. Hey, did you see the Kathy? She has broccoli in her teeth. And I mean, I know it's so minor,
Right.
but this is what kids do. And it may be
Hmm.
something, maybe it's something innocent, and sometimes it's not so innocent what they do to like
Get a
it's
good
like
laugh or
yes. Yeah,
entertain themselves.
yes, and it's not, I'm not saying that it's done maliciously, though sometimes it is. Sometimes they're
Hmm.
just kids being kids. They don't think about how the stuff that they do right now can have an impact in an hour, in a week, in a month, in a year. Like
Hmm.
it really does have a
Yes.
huge impact.
I also think about too, just the rise of influencers
Mhm.
on social media and how it's such a big thing to be an influencer. And so you've got a lot of adults, of course, that are influencers, and they are, you know, modeling outfits or doing whatever they're doing. They have tons and tons of likes and tons of engagement. Well, kids are like, they see that and they think, I want to be an influencer.
Mhm.
So they're like starting like YouTube channels and TikTok, TikTok accounts. And I see like girls and boys, young middle school, like dancing, like starting their phones and like dancing on there. Or some of the boys in our neighborhood are like, doing wheelies on their electric bikes, and filming themselves. And yeah, it's crazy. Like, it's just, it's crazy. Like, and to me, it's that whole like influencer mindset of
Mhm.
like, I want to go viral, on social media, because somehow to go viral on social media means, something positive, right?
Yeah.
Because they see all of these influencers on social media. And I mean, I remember a niece of ours in our family, like 5 or 6 years old, and she was be like, film me for social media. I want to start a YouTube channel. And she started like, dancing. And oh, she was like doing really silly things like fixing people's hair and just all this stuff. And I'm just like, wow, wow.
Oh, Lori, like when you think about that, that the stuff that we would do growing up, and some of the stuff we're like, whew, thank goodness it wasn't, no one was recording
Yeah.
anything. But like
Hmm.
all the kids see are the highlight reels. They only see the best of the best. Like they don't see the behind the scenes of what
Hmm.
really happens. And so
Right.
when people put on like, oh, they're an influencer, and I don't even like what does that mean? Like
Right.
what are you influencing? How to, wear, high-heeled shoes? Are you influencing how to have your hair a certain way? Like I don't even it kind of like doesn't make sense. Like what is it? And what is your goal when you are going to be an influencer? Someone had
Right.
said, "Oh, well, my son is an influencer with video games." Oh,
Okay.
okay. But like what does that mean? Like
Right.
people play better video games because they watched him? Like I don't get it. Like how that makes us better by, putting
Hmm.
all this out there. But here's the thing. When you so let's just take I was talking to someone and they said their daughter wanted to start a YouTube channel and she was probably 10 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Oh, what is she going to do a YouTube channel on?" And I forget, like I don't know, something with stuffed animal. I really remember what it was. But I said to him, "Here's the thing, like you can let her start it. That's going to be up to you. Like you're the parent. But you
Right.
have to realize that people are going to come at her." And he's like, "Oh no, she's 10." I'm like, "No, you don't understand. Kids
Right.
her age are going to be like, oh my gosh, you have that stuffed animal? That's so dumb. Why would you have that?"
Right.
And I
What are
said,
you, a baby? Yeah.
yes. And like,
Uh-huh.
and I get like people think like, oh, this will be fun, but they don't see the behind the scenes of like how people are unkind. People
Mhm.
can be mean. And they'll they'll say something that's cutting and you don't see the person on the other side because we're over here and we can type in, oh, I didn't like your shirt or, your
Right.
stuffed animal's dumb. And I don't see your reaction. And that's part of the problem is when we were growing up, we would get together with friends. And if I said something unkind to you, I would see your face right away and be like, oh, Lori,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize it. But if I
Right.
type something on the computer and I never get to see your reaction to it, well, how do I develop that empathy? How do I
Right.
develop compassion if these kids aren't even having that face-to-face time? They're not
Sure.
even having those interactions that allow them to develop those skills. And they really
Mhm.
are skills that need to be developed. Like you can tell someone, be kind, but it needs to be modeled, and they need
Hmm.
to see it in action around them, and you're definitely not getting it on social media.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that you said at the beginning, which I think is very true, you had said, a parent had said, "Well, why don't we just take away social media? Don't let our kids like ever have social media." Obviously, that's not going to work,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
They're going to have social media. So, what do parents do instead to build like you said, the resilience that they need, or the awareness that they need to have as young children, to better equip them to deal with the ramifications of social media?
So I would say the first thing is to hold off as long as possible
Hmm.
giving devices
Okay.
and
Age what?
age. So I would say at least 14 before they're getting a smartphone,
Okay.
because that
Hmm.
gives them access to like a whole new world.
Hmm.
And so for like, I'm going to say with my own kids, my oldest got it at 14 and my second got it at 15, and they're 20 and 16 now, and
Hmm.
neither one have any social media. And that is by their choice, not because my husband and I said you can't have it. It was because we educated them, because we told them
Mm.
about the side effects. The
Okay.
other thing that parents can do, and I think this is huge, is they can build the confidence of their kids, and it starts young. It
Hmm.
starts with them doing things. So people say, like, would ask me all the time when I was teaching at conference time, well, how do I build my kids' confidence? How do I build their self-esteem? And I would always
Hmm.
say that your confidence, a kid's confidence and self-esteem, doesn't come from us saying, oh, you get a trophy for participating.
Right.
You
Right.
did they feel confident and have their self-esteem built when they successfully complete tasks, when
Hmm.
they do
Right.
something success. And success doesn't mean, I'm not saying success has to be like, oh, an A in school, but when
Right.
they've worked hard and completed something. So you start with your kids young and you give them chores to do.
Hmm.
You have them help you with a laundry. And yes, a 2-year-old can help with a laundry. They can sort socks. They can match, here are all the socks. Put all the pairs together, all the ones that look the same, put them together.
I
That
saw the cutest little video. I got to stop you there because
okay.
speaking of social media, a positive thing. I saw the cutest little video of this little guy, probably two, taking clothes out of the dryer and putting them in a basket. And he was talking to himself. He says, "You're doing a great job. You're doing a
Oh,
great job." And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, it was so cute."
I see. I love that. And that's what, as parents, we build the confidence in our kids when we
Hmm.
allow them to do things age appropriate. Like, no, I'm not going to give, you're not going to give your 5-year-old keys to the car. So I was,
Right.
I was, I was, I was talking to, I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, it's so funny that as parents, we can we can tell our kids that we don't believe in them,
Hmm.
and not even say it.
Saying
It's
those
just
words.
by our actions. And I
Yes.
knew someone, their child is like 21 now, and when they started driving, the mom said, "Well, you know what? It's a far way to drive to school. So you know what? Well, I'll just drive you every day. It's okay, because I don't want you to have to worry about it. The parking lot and everything." And then but that just continued. Oh, well,
Hmm.
you don't need to. I don't. People are crazy on the road. You don't need to worry about that. I'll take you places. And
Right.
to this day, like, I know this person, and I won't name names, but they're like a really bad driver. And I'm not surprised, because the
Right.
parents didn't say, like, I believe in you. You know what? Let's get in the car together, and
Yes.
I'll drive with you so that you can learn what it is. Because you know what? That's how kids, that's how their confidence is built, is when they are allowed to do things and to stretch and to grow. Because I'm finding that kids are, the moment something is tough, it's like, oh, I have to stop. I can't do this. So I was at
Mhm.
the beach the other day, and I was there early, and I'm laying out my stuff, and I hear behind me, "Oh, Daddy, this is so hard." And
Mhm.
it was a father and a daughter, and she was trying to open her chair and she
Okay.
couldn't. So
Mhm.
she just stopped and ran down to the water. And she passed me, and I just said good morning to her. And I get up to the father. Now the father had opened the chair. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, like, Lori, it's a chair. Like, show her
Right.
how to do it. Like, don't do it for her. So I
Right.
say to the father, and I was like, oh, it's a beautiful day. And he's like, yeah. And I said, it's so funny. I was talking to someone the other day. I said, I heard your daughter say, oh, this is hard. And I said, I was talking to someone the other day, and she has 16-year-olds, and she said, oh man, I can't stand it. It breaks my heart that, like, when something comes up against them that's challenging, they like want to, they put their hands up and say no, and want to walk away and not try anymore. And I said, now I knew that the chair was not set up, but I wasn't going to be like, Dad, why'd you open the chair for her? So I said, you know what? How good is it for our kids to struggle a little bit and learn how to do things, because that's going to make them better in the long end. And the father went, you know, I do think that as parents, he's like, I don't know, maybe we make it too easy for the kids. And he walks over and he just like kind of subtly pushes the chair back down so it's
Good
folded
for
up
him.
again. I was like, I didn't even pretend I knew what happened. And I
Right.
just went, all right, well, like, have a great day. And she comes back up. Now I'm like still setting up my stuff, and she comes back up and she kind of gives like the flappy hands, like, what are you doing? And he's like, you can do it. I believe in you. And she opened it, and I was like, yay. But like that right there, that goes so far when a parent says, like,
Mhm.
I believe in you and you're struggling. I'm here. I'm gonna support you, but we don't need to do it for our
Yes.
kids. We really
Yes.
don't.
And I think sometimes I've seen this with my younger son's father. He has he projects his anxiety onto my son. And so it's like his anxiety and his fear that something will happen to my son gets projected on him. And so how my son receives it is, you don't trust me. You
Hmm.
don't trust me. Why don't you ever trust me? Like, and so he struggles with self esteem because all of this dynamic has been going on instead of saying, hey, you can do it,
Yeah.
just and one of the things I've been trying to do is like, what do you think you should do? Because when I see my son coming to me and saying, oh my God, I hate my job, what should I do, blah, 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 what do you think you should do?
Yeah.
I
That
think I should stick it out and build my resume. That sounds like a great plan.
that
So it's like, see, you know how to solve your problems.
and that right there, Lori, is so powerful. What do you think you should do?
Right.
Because now you're not, because how easy is it, like, as parent, we could just give them the answer, you could tell them your thoughts, and then
Hmm.
now you're pre-framing them, you're,
Yes.
not, it's not manipulating, but you're definitely having a say in like the final decision that they're making based on your reaction. But when
Right.
you say, well, what do you think, what do you think you should do? And I mean, I used to do that teaching all the time. Like, the kids wouldn't, I would say, first day of school, any paper that needs to be turned in goes on this corner, like, shelf right here. It
Hmm.
goes no place else. And you put the rock on top of it, because then this way the paper doesn't blow away someplace. And
Right.
you don't put it on my desk. You don't put it, I don't know, any place else. It literally,
Right.
the only thing forever it gets turned. And then, like, the third day of school, someone would come up and go, where should I put this note? Where should I put this test that I just finished? Where should I? And I would always say, I don't know. What do you think you should do? And then after a while, the rest of the class, like, kids would hear people go, and they would go, she's not going to answer. You know it. Just think. And it's like, but you know what? We make them competent or incompetent
Hmm.
based on how we react. And if we're ready to, like I'm sure you've heard, like, bulldozer parents, helicopter parents. When we rush in and try to save the day, make the path straight, we're
Hmm.
not actually helping them at all. We're
Right.
actually making them dependent upon
Yes.
us. And
Yes.
we
And that
don't
does not build confidence.
know. And we want to grow amazing humans and help them to be productive members of society, but it starts, like, when they're little, and
Yes.
making sure that we're allowing them to build that muscle of, it's okay to be frustrated. It's
Hmm.
okay to not be good at something right away, but you'll learn, and I'm here to support you. I mean, how much
Yes.
more do you want your kid? Like, my son's going to get his driver's license in 2 months. How much more do I want him to learn how to drive in a torrential rainstorm? How much more do I want him to learn how to do, like, oh my gosh, there's, someone kind of parked on the side of the road and there's traffic coming the other way. Well, I want him to be with me when he's learning how to navigate that stuff, instead
Hmm.
of, for the first time, I'll just go do it on your own. Good luck. God bless. Like, we don't
Right.
want that. We want them to learn when it's safe to make mistakes when they're with us, not when
Yes.
they're out on their own and
Yes.
we're all going.
And I think it's the mistakes and the failure and being okay, like us as parents saying it's okay, we're all going to make mistakes. I think that's what builds the resilience. It's
Yes.
like, okay, I made a mistake, I learned how to recover from this mistake, and therefore I am, each mistake I'm making, each time I fall down, I am learning to be resilient and get back up.
Mhm.
It
Yes.
kind of reminds me of the 1 year old that learns that, somehow or another we lose this. It's like when we're 1 years old, we fall down and we don't say, oh my God, I fell down, I'm never going to try that again. It's like the 1 year old just like, okay,
Yeah.
fine, let me get back up again and just keep going. Right.
Yeah.
But at some age, it starts,
Mm.
that falling down, that metaphorical falling down becomes more difficult. And I think parents, especially today, and this is a conversation, I'm old, so I have this conversation with my spouse all the time, especially today. Like, we have a family in town and I'm watching them navigate their little 14-month-old and their 5-year-old, and they're whining and and the parents are just catering to them,
Mhm.
of like, what's the matter now, like, why are you so upset, like, it's just like, she's upset, let her be upset, like, it's okay for her to be upset. So no, she can't have chips right now, it's okay. And
Yeah.
she's not going to have, it's not going to be the end of the world. But parents, a lot of parents today are so afraid of their kids, like, fail hurting, feeling frustration, feeling, being unhappy, all of those things.
Mhm.
And like, let me say, life is not all happiness. And the sooner we can teach our kids that life is full of ups and downs and it's okay and you can get through it and you can navigate, I think the stronger our kids are going to be.
Yeah. Because I find that I hear a lot, Lori, and I don't know about you, but a lot of times parents will say, well, I just want my kid to be happy.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
I understand that, but is
Yes.
happiness really the goal as a parent? That we
Right.
want our kids to be happy. I want my child to be a productive member of society. I want them to
Yes.
be capable. I want to be competent. I want them to be empathetic. I don't know if happiness, because happiness is so fleeting. It's happiness
Yes.
is like depending on the circumstance. If something good happens, I'm happy. If something bad happens, I'm not. So, like,
Right.
happiness is like this fleeting thing that I don't think should be what our desire as a parent for our children, because life is hard. Like,
Hmm.
life isn't easy, and
No.
sooner we have our kids understand that, like, life's not fair, things aren't always going to go your way, and then
Hmm.
how do you handle those setbacks? That's actually going to make you happier than
Right.
if, oh, well, you know what? Oh, you want this chip at 9 a.m.? well, I understand that, but you can't have it right now. So
Right.
let's just we're gonna do something else. Like we're not gonna keep we don't have to like keep talking about it. I mean, my husband and I laugh all the time. We're at the beach and we'll hear like kids screaming and we'll just look at each other like, oh, that's a mad cry. They're just mad. Like they didn't get what they
Right.
wanted. Not
Right.
it's not because, a seagull
They're
came and
genuinely hurt
yeah,
or
yeah,
yeah,
exactly, exactly.
right.
It's like,
Mhm.
like the one, it was funny. A seagull. So the kid was eating when like where I go to the beach, you're not supposed to eat on the beach. This little kid is
Okay.
eating, I don't know, like pirate booty or something. And a seagull came down and like it fell in the sand and the seagull came down and swooped it up and took it. And we were like, oh my gosh, it was so funny. And the kid is like lost it. And
Oh my
and the mom's like,
goodness.
"Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, honey, I'll just get you." And I'm like thinking, just say like, "Hey, man, that seagull, that was really cool. Did you see him zoom in and grab it? He's an amazing seagull. That's his superpower. He steals food from little kids." Like, just like, why were you and the screaming, not joking, probably went on for 5 minutes. There were three
Oh my
guys sitting
gosh.
next to us. They got up and moved about 100 yards down the beach because I heard them go. They use some foul language. If I had to
Right.
listen to this kid
Right.
scream anymore, and I was like, and it was over like a piece of like pirate
Right.
booty.
Pirate's booty. Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
seriously, and like the parents escalated it to like it was just silly. Like I almost wanted to go over and be like, "Did you see that seagull? That was me." And the other kid was crying immediately.
Okay, there's one other question that I want to ask because I think this can be helpful for parents.
Mhm.
Um, what can families do, parents do to encourage less scrolling, less device, and more connection in their family?
That's a great question. The first thing I would say is modeling it
Mhm.
as the adult
Yes,
that we
you're right.
model that being
Hmm.
engaged in the real world, being engaged in
Yes.
conversations is important, and this is how we grow. And with your kids is that set times like, and it doesn't have to feel punitive. It can feel like, hey, this is what we're doing. Like one of the things in our family is there's no devices at meals, like
Hmm.
none. Like we don't. They're not even in the same room. We
Right.
don't do that. We go out to a restaurant. Nobody brings a device in. Well, I do.
Okay.
I put it in my purse for time, but like, to make sure if we have to go someplace, but I don't
Right.
take it out. And even if I do, like, do a little peek, they're all like, oh, mom. And I'm like, no, I'm just checking what time it is. But so, I'm doing it quick, put it away. But
Right.
it's that is first at the modeling. And then
Hmm.
we just, you make times. It doesn't have to be like, oh, we're just never having the phone again. You're never having devices. But you know what? On Saturday mornings, we're going to do something together every Saturday morning, whether it's, we're, doing chores, which might not be fun, but
Right.
we're going to go out. We're going to go to the park. We're going to take a walk. We're going to do something where we don't have devices with
Hmm.
us so that we're engaged with each other. When you go to like a family event that you like for my kids, they know like we're not having devices out because if it
Right.
annoys you that, your cousins have their devices out, we're not going to, and we don't like,
We're not.
I
We're
have
not
to say
doing
like
that.
the family overall, like we do that, but it's something where you just say that the, we only have so much time together. I don't
Hmm.
want to spend it where we're all scrolling.
Yes.
And kids
Absolutely.
want that too. They do. It's just you have to implement it.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, this has been a great conversation. Like I really enjoyed this, and I think for any parent out there that's listening, a lot of good stuff in here, and I just encourage you to try some of these things. Even just making small changes, I think, with your kids can have a cumulative effect. So
Mhm,
just give some of these ideas a try. Um, Even if you're not willing yet to try the ideas, at least try on the perspectives
mhm.
and see how they feel until you get ready to say, okay, yeah, I think I am going to make some changes. So I want to ask a final question before we close, and that is of course, the same question that all listeners are used to. And that is, what is your mojo or your magical superpower that you bring to our world?
So, you had asked me that, and I was like, "Oh, I know." Like, I know. I know that my superpower is my ability to connect with people.
Okay.
My husband
Hmm.
jokes with me that I'll say hello to a complete stranger, and
Hmm.
within 5 minutes, I will have their entire life story. My kids are like, "Oh my gosh, mom, if we go out to the food store, you're not allowed to talk to anybody, and we don't want to know everything about them." I'm like, I don't say anything. I just say hi to people, and then they start talking to me and telling me everything. And they're like, and my daughter, what did she call me? One time she said, um, she goes, "You're socially compelling." She goes, "You compel people to share their stories with you,
Hmm.
and all you do is say hello." Like I had a woman who literally I said thank you to her for doing something for my family. And I found out about her spouse and where she lived and her grandkids and like everything, what she was going to be doing
Right.
this weekend. And so that's my zero about is my ability to connect with people on a deep level
Hmm.
very quickly.
That's very cool. My spouse is exactly like you. We always joke, if she takes a flight somewhere, she will come back with a new friend. Like, inevitably, she has a new friend after every single flight.
No, I totally I
and
had
and,
gotten
and this friend's going to come over for dinner at our house or whatever. It's like,
like I went to Arkansas recently for something with Converlation, and um I sat, it was four flight because there were connecting flights. So I was on four plane flights, and I have the cells of all four people I sat next to. Because we were like, yeah, then we text each other, "Hey, how you doing?" My husband's
right.
like, "Oh
Uh-huh.
my gosh." He's like, "You're probably never gonna see these people." I was like, "I know, but we're connected now on," like, we
Yep.
do. Like, I'm serious. Like, there's three out of the four that I actually I
Right.
text on a, like, regular basis
Yeah.
because it is.
With my spouse, I don't know if you've ever taken the Clifton Strengths, but one
Yes,
of
yes.
her top five strengths is woo. And I always say it's your woo. People are just like drawn to you, like just, and you kind of have that. You have a really good energy, so I can see why you woo people into your world. So thank you so much, Kathy, for your time today. And yeah, it's just been a blessing and a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you so much, Lori. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to the On a Mission Mojo podcast. Ready to dive into more incredible stories of people on a mission? Next week, I'll return with a fresh episode to ignite your passion for creating a better world. If you loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a glowing review, and spread the word to all your friends. Head over to onamissionbrands.com for more great episodes. Remember, the world needs your mojo, so go out there and let your brilliance shine.